Part 6. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 51. Gu Yunjiao continued, as for whether or not the legs are good, no one can guarantee this. It mainly depends on whether the bones will be displaced in the back. Zhang Yuzi nodded slightly. I believe you, so I'll change your recipe. What a doctor likes most is a patient who believes in himself and is willing to cooperate with his own treatment. Chen Shi looked at Zhang Yuzi. She thought, Saburo is smarter and more knowledgeable than herself. Since he said so, there must be his reasons, then listen to him. She found out the money on her body and kept more than 2 taels for the medical office to pay the bills and to take the car. The remaining 3 taels of silver were all given to Gu Yunjiao. If you prescribe the prescription, just use the money to get the medicine. Gu Yunjiao took the money and nodded. I don't think the money for the medicine is enough. I'll ask the shopkeeper Wang later to see if I can take credit. Chen Shi was a little excited for a moment. It would be nice if I could pay on credit. Don't worry, my mother will definitely pay back the money you owe. After going out, Gu Yunjiao walked quickly to the Wang family pharmacy. Today is not at the fair, and there is no one in the pharmacy. Seeing that it was her, shopkeeper Wang stroked his beard and smiled. I didn't come here just now. Why did you come to get medicine again? Gu Yunjiao smiled. Yes, but you also know that I don't have enough money, otherwise I wouldn't have just grabbed a pair. Can you give me some medicine on credit? Shopkeeper Wang raised his brows and waved his hand. No, I never buy medicines on credit here. In this world, the poor are the majority, and most of the people who come to get medicine are poor, and it is common that money is not enough. Once this opening is opened, then his pharmacy will not be a pharmacy, but a good hall. Gu Yunjiao was embarrassed because she thought about the problem too simply. She doesn't have much friendship with shopkeeper Wang, so why should they give her medicine on credit? The shopkeeper Wang said curiously, I'm too embarrassed to ask you first. Didn't you just get 30 taels of silver, and then you spent it all? It's not enough. Gu Yunjiao thought for a while and shook her head. I have money. Shopkeeper Wang raised his eyebrows even higher. If you have money, do you still pay on credit? Gu Yunjiao smiled helplessly, and didn't say anything about the question, but said, I want to make a prescription. Do you have a pen and paper here? Of course, there are pen and paper, and the doctor in the pharmacy also has to prescribe it. Shopkeeper Wang was just about to tell you what recipe a little girl would make, but then she thought about it and saw what she could write. He took Gu Yunjiao to the doctor's side. Dr. Lu moved out of the way. Gu Yunjiao pondered for a while, picked up the pen, dipped it in ink, and the pen followed the dragon and snake, and quickly wrote a formula. Dr. Lu and shopkeeper Wang were watching from the side. Although shopkeeper Wang doesn't see a doctor, he has been working in a pharmacy for so many years, and he still knows the basics of medicine and pharmacology. There is nothing wrong with this recipe at first glance. This girl is really good at it. Dr. Lu saw that there were broken bones, and natural copper in the prescription, so he asked, whose bones are these broken? Could it be Zhang Xiaokai who fell from the upstairs last night? This county is small, and something happened to the whole county. Gu Yunjiao nodded and handed the pharmacy to the shopkeeper Wang. Please help me get the medicine. Then he said, you hold it, I will come to change my clothes. Shopkeeper Wang pointed to the backyard. Gu Yunjiao went in, and she found a thatched hut. After entering, she took money from the medicine store and came out. The guy who came out was still taking medicine. Gu Yunjiao asked her staff to take some bandages and asked the shopkeeper Wang, how much is the total? Shopkeeper Wang brought the abacus over, faced the prescription, and calculated everything. After the calculation, shopkeeper Wang raised his head and said, 60 or 5 coins. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 52. As if afraid that Gu Yunjiao might find it too expensive, Shopkeeper Wang explained, "You have Panax Noto ginseng here, and the weight is quite large. Panax Noto ginseng is not cheap in the first place. Last year's drought in southwest China reduced production of Panax Noto ginseng and the price has skyrocketed." Gu Yunjiao nodded. In the previous world, Panax Noto ginseng was produced in the Yunnan area. In this time and space, it should be in a similar geographical location. She took out the money and handed it to the shopkeeper Wang. Shopkeeper Wang moved quickly and found her money. Then Gu Yunjiao went to Dr. Lu to borrow pen and ink and wrote an IOU. On it was written, "I owe the Wang family pharmacy $3 or $2 or $5 of money for the medicine, and the person who will make it, Zhang Yuzi." After writing the note, Gu Yunjiao returned to the hospital and showed the IOU to Mrs. Chen. Mrs. Chen knew a few words, and when she saw that she owed more than 3 taels of silver, she felt a little panicked. She knew it was only money for 5 medicines. She didn't even dare to think how much money it would cost in the future. Then Gu Yunjiao asked Zhang Yuzi to press his fingerprints. Returning to the pharmacy with the IOU, Gu Yunjiao pulled the shopkeeper Wang aside and handed the IOU to him. Shopkeeper Wang looked at the IOU and raised his eyebrows. "This is you." Gu Yunjiao smiled, "This note will be placed with the shopkeeper first. If someone comes to ask if Zhang Xiaoki has given the medicine on credit, the shopkeeper will take the note and show it to others." Shopkeeper Wang laughed, "You girl, what the hell are you doing? Aren't you afraid that I will use this note to ask Zhang Xiaoki for money?" Gu Yunjiao smiled, "You just ask him for it. She can afford to lose a few taels of silver. She has medicine and money in her medicine storehouse, but she will not be stupid and take care of everything by herself. If there is no separation, it is right for Mr. Zhang and Mrs. Zhou to take the money. She still has a small calculation in her heart. Now it seems that Zhang Yuzi has no use value, and the big house owes a lot of debts. Maybe she can take the opportunity to split up." Shopkeeper Wang smiled and folded the note, put it in his arms, and suddenly said, "The more I look at you, the more kind-hearted you are. You shouldn't be Dr. Gu's daughter, right?" Gu Yunjiao hesitated for a while and nodded. She looked like her father, and it was easy for those who were familiar to see it. Shopkeeper Wang slapped his hand, "I said like. No wonder you have musk." He sighed, "When your father was still around, he would always come and have a drink with me for a month. Is there any news from your father?" Gu Yunjiao said, "I heard that someone saw a person in Fukin who looks a bit like my father. I don't know if it is." Shopkeeper Wang came to the spirit, "Is that so? Next time I go to Fukin to buy medicinal materials, and let someone help to inquire about it." Gu Yunjiao gave him a blessing, "Then I would like to thank the shopkeeper Wang." Shopkeeper Wang stroked his beard, "Based on my relationship with your father, you should call me Uncle Wang." Gu Yunjiao smiled at him, "Uncle Wang. I am selling musk and this IOU, please keep it a secret for me." Shopkeeper Wang nodded, "Don't worry, just talk to me about your father's friendship. This trivial matter is nothing. However, let me remind you that you are young, don't prescribe prescriptions indiscriminately, in case something goes wrong." Gu Yunjiao smiled, "Thank you Uncle Wang, this is my family, it's fine." After saying goodbye, Gu Yunjiao left. Gu Yunjiao called for a carriage back to the hospital. Chen took a few copper coins, and the central staff carried Zhang Yuzi into the carriage. The carriage drove towards Qingshan village. The road was bumpy, and Chen was worried. "It's so bumpy, Saburo's connected leg won't be crooked, right?" Gu Yunjiao said, "If it's crooked, it's crooked. I'll have to look at it when I go back." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 53. Half an hour later, the carriage stopped in the Jiang's yard, and it was already time. Zhang Hua ran out of the house first. Why did you come back? Did he die? He had never been to a hospital, so he didn't know the rules there. Chen Shi said angrily, how can you not be cured? Then no one is allowed to stay in the hospital, so I just came back and let Yunjiao treat it. Zhang Hua frowned, sister-in-law, aren't you making a fool of yourself? What can she do as a little girl? Chen Shi didn't argue with him, only said, you lower the door panel and carry Saburo into the house with the second child. Zhang Hua got down the door panel and called Zhang Rong out, and the two carried Zhang Yuzi into his room and put him on the bed. Gu Yunjiao took 2 packets of medicine, one large and one small, to the Chen family. Mother, you go to decoct the medicine. Decoct the medicine in the small packet first, and then pour the medicine in the big packet into it after a quarter of an hour. Chen Shi agreed, took the medicine and went to the kitchen. Liaolang and Sanya were both in Zhang Yu's room, and Sanya was standing beside the bed crying. Rokuro was also unusually silent. Gu Yunjiao washed her hands and came in and said, you two go out first, and I'll take a look at your third brother's legs. Rokuro pulled Sanya out. Gu Yunjiao closed the door and even the window. When Zhang Yuzi first decided to let Gu Yunjiao take care of it, he didn't think about it that much. At this time, he suddenly realized that the place where he was injured, For a while, he forgot the pain in the wound, clenching his fists, his whole body stiffened. After Gu Yunjiao closed the window, she lifted off his quilt, and then lifted off the robe on his body. Zhang Yuzi's little clothes had long been told by Dr. Li to cut them off and throw them away, and there were 2 bare legs under the robe. His face turned red, and he hurriedly tore his robes, like a newlywed bride who had just entered the bridal chamber, stammering, I. God, he was seen by a little girl, let him die, forget it. Gu Yunjiao didn't look at him, and started to untie the bandages around the splint. There's nothing to be ashamed of, I'm a doctor, you're a patient. That being said, she is actually embarrassed. After all, Zhang Yuzi is not a general teacher of a medical school, but a living man. Not to mention that this man is still alive and beautiful. But she knew that she couldn't show the slightest shyness, otherwise the treatment would not be able to go on. Zhang Yuzi's skin was white, and his whole body was red at the moment, and the whole person looked like only cooked shrimp. Even the pain of the wound was forgotten by him. Gu Yunjiao quickly untied the splint and touched his leg. Zhang Yuzi's leg was already swollen, and Gu Yunjiao's little cold hand was touching back and forth at the root of his thigh. Zhang Yuzi's whole body is not well, half of it is pain and usually shy, and his body shudders slightly. At this moment, Gu Yunjiao frowned, it's crooked. I don't know if the bone was originally connected crookedly, or it was caused by bumps on the road. In short, I had to reconnect it. What comforted her was that the position of the injury was not as high as she imagined, the splint was played skillfully, and it was well taken care of in the later stage, so recovery should not be difficult. Gu Yunjiao determined the location of the injury and was about to fix the bone, but found that Zhang Yuzi was very nervous. Although the muscles under her hands were swollen, there was still a sense of tightness. She rolled her eyes and suddenly said, is your academy master's daughter beautiful? Zhang Yuzi closed his eyes and couldn't help thinking, master of the academy? Which husband? Does Master Gao have a daughter? Or Yu Fuzi? The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 54. Just as I was thinking, there was a sharp pain in my leg, and then I heard Gu Yunjiao's voice, it's done. It took Zhang Yuzi a long while to recover from the pain, and when he opened his eyes, he saw Gu Yunjiao splinting him again. He just thought about it. Her words just now were just like what she said to Zhang Erlang that day, pigs flying in the sky should be used to distract the patient's attention and make the patient completely relax. He saw that Gu Yunjiao's ears were slightly red, and he suddenly realized that she was also shy. However, she suppressed the shame in her heart. That's right, she is still a little girl. She didn't even enter the door of the bridal chamber, but her elder brother went. She didn't even know what men were like, so how could she not be shy? He is older than her and still a man, but he doesn't have the character of hers. Gu Yunjiao quickly tied the splint, then she put down the robe and covered Zhang Yuzi with the quilt. She opened the door, and Mrs. Chen came in from outside. I boiled the medicine. Have you seen Saburo's legs? Are the bones crooked? Gu Yunjiao nodded. I took it again. Chen was so happy that he recited a Buddha. If there is no ready-made doctor at home, it would be all over. At this time, Lu Lang came in with Sanya, and when Lu Lang came in, he closed the door. Watching Chen Shi hesitate to speak. Chen Shi saw that something was wrong with him. What's wrong? Lu Lang suddenly clenched his fists. I heard grandpa and second uncle and third uncle talking. Chen's expression changed. What did they say? Rokuro glanced at Zhang Yuzi lying on the bed, and Zhang Yuzi looked at him quietly. Lu Lang gritted his teeth and said quickly, Grandpa said that the third brother's leg is abolished, and he can't be an official in the future. He also said that the third brother will cost a lot of money to treat his legs. Second uncle said his mother, Saburo's little bastard, insisted on learning to drink. Now it's good, it's all over. I spent a few dozen taels of silver on him over the years, and it was all in vain. Third uncle sighs, it costs a lot of money to treat the disease, the doctor said dozens of taels. Second uncle jumped up and said, that can't be done. The money in the family can't be spent by him like this. Since the bones are connected, then it's done. What medicine do you need to take? The third uncle said that if you don't take the silver, sister-in-law will definitely make trouble. Second uncle said, let her make trouble, and I'm afraid of what happened to her. He said again, I think it's better to divide the big room out. In the future, Saburo can't be an official. The big house family is the mouth of the meal, and it saves the family's chewing. Chen sneered after hearing this. What did your grandfather say? Lu Lang said, the third uncle said, let's not be busy separating the family, in case the third brother's leg is healed. Grandpa said that the separation of the family will wait 2 or 3 months before we see it. Gu Yunjiao was amazed when she saw Lu Lang. The child's memory is really good, and he should have repeated the conversations of several people word for word. Almost even the usual tone of voice is exactly the same. Chen Shi gritted his teeth, is this still a family? She turned to look at Zhang Yuzi, we are not human beings, we are just objects, if they are useful, they will be thrown away. Zhang Yuzi smiled bitterly, although he knew what these family members were like, he couldn't help but feel chills at the moment. Chen raised his head, sure, let's not drag others down. I'll go to Zhao Lijhan to talk about the separation. Gu Yunjiao almost applauded Chen Shi. Who knew Zhang Yuzi said, Mother, if you say it's inappropriate, people will accuse you. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 55. Chen Shi shook his head, I'm not afraid, I'm going to give it up today, even if I fight for my life, I have to tear it apart with this family of jackals and tigers. What more Zhang Yuzi had to say, Chen Shi has already rushed out. Zhang Yuzi sighed, he originally planned to think of a way to ask them to bring it up by themselves, alas, forget it, mother's character can't stand it. After a while, there was a quarrel outside. Gu Yunjiao listened attentively, and Chen's over and over again was a sentence, either use money to treat Zhang Yuzi's illness, or split up the family. Mr. Zhang was upset by the quarrel, and Zhou Shi and Zhang Rong were also clamoring for separation, and Mr. Zhang, who had planned to wait a few more months, was heartbroken. Sure, this is your own separation. Yes, in the future your family won't survive, don't regret it. As soon as Mr. Zhang finished speaking, Zhang Rong said, I'll find someone. He couldn't wait to run out. He is the most willing to split up the family, and he has been dissatisfied with the special status of the big house in the family for a long time. His eldest brother is gone, and so is Dallin. He is now the eldest son, and Erlang is the eldest grandson, but in this family, he has not received the treatment that the eldest son and eldest grandson should have. The whole family held Saburo like a phoenix egg. The money was also spent on Saburo. Only when they were separated, the second room could be seen in the eyes of the parents. At this time, there was still half an hour before the usual dinner, and Zhang Rong quickly brought Zhao Lijian and his two uncles over. Zhang Yuzi heard the sound of greetings from outside, beckoned Liaolang over, and whispered, "You will accompany mother in a while, don't make trouble if they say anything, remember everything, come back and tell me." Rokuro nodded and ran out. Zhao Lijian and Jiang's uncle were all sitting in the main room, as was the Chen family. Originally, a woman from the Chen family was not qualified to be involved in such a big event as the separation of the family. However, when her man died, Zhang Yuzi couldn't move, and Lu Lang was still young, so she was the only one in charge. Lu Lang stood beside the Chen family. Even though the Chen family was usually sturdy, she had no idea at this time. As soon as Lu Lang came, she tightly grasped Lu Lang's hand, as if she wanted to find some strength. The old man Zhang coughed lightly and said, "Today I'm looking for a few people to witness, because of Saburo's fall, the eldest daughter-in-law is making trouble for the whole family. If that's the case, then divide the big room out, and we'll have each other in the future. Everyone, don't make a fuss." Zhao Lijian was talking about the scene. "It's okay to divide, the tree will be divided into branches, and the children will be divided, no one can avoid this." Mr. Zhang nodded, "Then I'll say it. Let's talk about the rations first, and then the autumn food. It's good for this year, and the family has enough food. This is divided according to the head, and it will give you enough food for most of the year." Chen Shi didn't say a word, and Mr. Zhang continued, "Then the house. This is the only yard in the house. The big room has always lived in the east wing, and there are 5 rooms in the east wing. Now, Erlang is about to marry a daughter-in-law. There is not enough room in the second room. I mean, let the 2 rooms on the south side of the big room be used as a new house for Erlang." Chen Shi sneered, "Father, this is impossible, there are 3 rooms left, and 1 is a penthouse. How can our family of 5 live? Saburo has also reached the age of marrying a daughter-in-law, what will we do then?" Mr. Zhang pressed his hand down, "I am so divided, I have my own reasons, you wait for me to finish." He continued, "There are still fields, and the family has a total of 30 acres of land. This land is allocated to the big house with 3 acres. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 56. Only 3 acres of land. Chen's voice changed. "Dad, you're going too far." Mr. Zhang frowned. "I said, I have my reasons, and I will naturally say in a while, what are you yelling about?" Chen Shi held back his anger and remained silent. Rokuro is also 10 years old, so these words are not incomprehensible. However, he knew that what he said was useless, he was a child, and no one listened to him. Zhao Lijian and the 2 uncles of the Zhang family looked at each other. The division of the family is indeed too unfair to the big house. However, they came here just to be a witness, not to preside over any justice. At this time, Mr. Zhang picked up the dry cigarette and took a sip, and then said, "I'm so divided, there is a reason. I originally planned to bring this matter into the coffin. No one would tell me. There is no way to do it today. Otherwise, you will say that I bullied the orphans and widows of the big house. He puffed out a puff of smoke and said slowly, Sanlang is not my Zhang family's flesh and blood. What? Zhao Lichun and Jiang's two uncles were shocked. Even Zhang Rong and Zhang Hua didn't know about it, and the two were even more shocked. They all looked at Chen Shi in unison. Chen clenched his fists and said nothing. Rokuro, who was only 10 years old, was about to faint from fright. He couldn't believe what he heard. The third brother wasn't his own father and mother? Mr. Zhang continued, at that time, the boss was still working in the grocery store in the county, and the Chen family also lived in the county. Once the boss went out to buy goods, and on the way back, he picked up Saburo under a tree. I just took it back and gave it to the old folks. It just so happened that the boss didn't come back in the county for more than half a year, and the family thought it was the boss's own child. The boss only told me about it before he died. He said that if Saburo's parents found him, he would give the child back to him. I just found out. You said, Saburo is not the flesh and blood of my Zhang family. My family raised him so much, and even gave him money to study. Is this the best way to be benevolent and righteous? Zhao Lichun and several people nodded, that is, the old man benevolent and righteous. When Mr. Zhang heard this compliment, the wrinkles on his face stretched a little. Sanlang is also big now, he can make a living, my family can't support him anymore. Sanya will get married sooner or later, and there is only one male left in the big room. The 3 acres of land and 3 rooms are all allocated to Liaolang. There are still many people in the second room and the third room. In the future, Erlang and the others may not have 3 acres of land. He has 3 acres of land for a child, and there are not many 3 rooms. When everyone thought about it, it seemed that this was what the old man said. The old man Zhang said again, now that Saburo's leg is broken, the big house has no labor, and no one is farming, I will take care of the 3 acres of land for him, plant it for him, and give him the food after picking up the grain, and I will take 30%, it's hard work. When Rokuro grows up in the future, the 3 acres of land will be transferred to him. Chen Shi almost laughed. Is this called separation? After working for a long time, not only did the big room have nothing, but 2 rooms were given away, which was really deceiving. Mrs. Chen stood up, this can't be done, it's unfair for the old man to divide like this, I'm not a member of this family. I don't want to eat and drink. I don't want to live in a house. Zhang Rong sneered, you still want family property? Who knows when you will remarry? The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 57. Chen's face blushed, I've already been married. If I want to remarry, I won't wait until today. She glanced all over the room, you guys are too bullying, I'm going to find Saburo. Zhang Rong sneered, he's an outsider, what qualifications does he have to meddle in the affairs of our Liaozhang family? Chen Shi choked, but came out of the room. I came out and thought about it. It's really good not to tell Saburo. He doesn't know his life experience. She has already planned it. As long as Saburo's biological parents don't come, she will hide it for the rest of her life. After thinking for a while, Mrs. Chen walked to Gu Yunjiao's house. Gu Yunjiao was reading medical books in her room, and when she saw Mrs. Chen come in, she got up hurriedly. Chen Shi really had no one to discuss, so he lowered his voice and said everything the old man said. Gu Yunjiao didn't have time to be shocked that Zhang Yuzi was not Chen's biological family. When she heard that only 3 acres of land were allocated to Liaolang, and the land would not be available until Liaolang became an adult, she frowned, Mother, I think, those 3 the Mu land may not be available in the future, so Mother might as well let the old man exchange the land for silver. Chen Shi hesitated, there is not even an acre of land, what will the family eat in the future? Don't you blame me when Rokuro is older. At this time, Rokuro suddenly came in from the door, Mother, I don't blame you. I heard people say that good men don't eat family meals, and good women don't wear wedding dresses. I don't care about these acres of land. When I grow up, I can earn money to eat by myself. Sister-in-law is right, it's better to ask for money directly. If you ask for money, you can treat the third brother's leg. When Chen Shi heard Saburo say this, he couldn't help but redden his eyes. Rokuro is sensible. She lowered her head and wiped away her tears. It's all my fault. I don't even have a family, and I don't have the support of my parents and brothers. I deserve to be bullied by them. She was sold to a large family as a maid since she was a child, and she has long since forgotten who her own parents were. Gu Yunjiao patted Chen's hand and said softly, "Don't be sad, mother. Even if I don't give you a copper, I won't make you hungry. I will try my best to heal Saburo's leg." She has never been short of money in her last life, and she has no concept of money. In her opinion, it doesn't matter if the Zhang family has something or not. She thought for a while, however, mother's best not to agree to the house. Erlang is not a good thing, so you can't live here in the East Wing. Also, the old man and the old lady should be asked clearly about the retirement of the old man. It should be written in black and white on the separation document, and don't talk to them in the future. Chen Shi wiped away her tears. "Okay, I see." She took Rokuro back to the main room. "Father, we still have money at home, and we have pigs and chickens, so should we share some of these? Also, the family has accumulated some money over the years. Should the money be distributed to us?" Before Mr. Zhang could speak, Zhang Rong stood up. "Do you still want to share the money? How much money did Saburo spend in the family these years? It's good that I didn't ask you for money." Zhang Hua also nodded at this time. "This is true, Saburo said that it cost more than 30 taels of silver. Logically, the money should be taken out of your big room. After all, you should still find us money." Chen Shi looked at the faces of the two of them, and was disheartened for a while. She has been married to the Zhang family for 20 years. She treats them as her family, but who knows that they treat herself as an outsider. "I married myself, and the dowry of dozens of taels of silver was all filled into this family. At this time, I was fighting with them for these 3 melons and 2 dates. It's boring, really boring. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth." Author, Jinkui. Chapter 58. Chen Shi lowered his eyes. "Father said to give Lialang 3 acres of land. I just discussed it with Lialang, and there is no labor at home. We don't want this land. Father can exchange it for me, and now the land price is 5 taels of silver per mu, even if it is 15 taels. Besides, there are 5 rooms in the East Wing. We are barely enough to live in. I don't want the rest. This room must be given to us. I only have 2 requests. You agree to it. If you don't agree dash." Chen Shi suddenly raised his head. "I will take my dowry list and go to the Yamen to complain. My 70-80 taels of dowry money are all posted to your Zhang family. I have worked hard to pull a few children, and now you are treating me like this." Everyone didn't make a sound, they were all thinking in their hearts. After a long time, the old man Zhang said, "Let's do it. You can live in those few rooms, just let you live in it, and when Sanya gets married, the 2 rooms in the south still have to be returned. Lu Lang can only divide it up. 3, that's a lot." Chen Shi didn't bother with this question, and said, "What about the parents' retirement?" Everyone looked at Mr. Zhang. Mr. Zhang pondered for a while. "Although the boss is gone, our family has raised Saburo for all these years. Saburo should also repay our family's kindness for raising us. I don't want much. Every year, the big house will give us 2 eldest and 2 taels of silver. 20 taels of silver is not much, but it is not a lot. 10 cents a pound of meat, even if you eat a pound of meat a day, 2 taels of silver is enough to eat meat for half a year. Just as Chen Shi wanted to cry that his orphans and widowed mothers couldn't afford so much money, the old man said, Sanlang broke his leg, it's not easy for you, this year's money will be ignored. It will be given from the beginning of next year. These words were beautiful, and they blocked Chen's words. If you think about it, it's actually only a 3-month delay. Zhao Lijian praised Mr. Zhang again. Then he wrote the documents, in triplicate, one of which was to be archived by the government. It is clearly written in it that Zhang Yuzi is not a parent and child of the Zhang family, so he does not divide his family property, and has nothing to do with the Zhang family after that. This article was specially written by Zhang Rong to Zhao Lijian. He heard that Mrs. Chen went to Lijian's house to borrow money again. He was worried that Mrs. Chen would borrow money from everywhere for Zhang Yuzi to treat his legs, and the creditors would find them in the future. Then there are 3 acres of land equivalent to 15 taels of silver to Rokuro. Every year, the 2 elders should be given pension money of 2 silvers until the 2 elders pass away. The house is also written clearly. After listening to Zhao Li's righteous reading of the document, Mr. Zhang entered the back room and took 15 taels of silver and handed it over to the Chen family. Chen sneered while holding the silver. She asked for money to treat Saburo before, but they said that they had no money, but now they have it. But she didn't bother to say anything, and put the silver in her arms. Mr. Zhang divided the grain in front of everyone again, and let Zhang Rong Jianghua move into the east wing. Both Chen's and Rokuro put their fingerprints on the separation documents, and this family is divided. Chen Shi said to everyone, Sanlang's life experience, he himself doesn't know, I just ask everyone to keep it secret for me, don't make any premise in front of him. Zhao Lijian nodded and agreed. Zhang Rong snorted, not knowing what it meant. Zhao Lijian took a copy of the document. This document is going to the Yamen to archive the household registration. He said to the Chen family, I will report the document at the end of the year, and then I will post a new household to you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 59. Chen Shi thanked Zhao Lijian, and when he left, he took Lu Lang and returned to the house with the money. Gu Yunjiao greeted her and smiled at her, is it finished? Chen Shi was in a very low mood at first, but seeing her smiling face, she suddenly felt less uncomfortable. Entering the house, Zhang Yuzi also tried his best to pull out a smiling face. Mother, are you finished? Chen nodded. Zhang Yuzi said again, where is the family document, let me take a look. Just as Chen Shi reached into his arms to dig it out, he suddenly remembered that the document stated that Zhang Yuzi was not from Jiang's family, and this document could not be shown to him. She forced a smile, I put away the documents, there's nothing to see. Zhang Yuzi was puzzled, just now his mother obviously wanted to take it out of her arms, why didn't she suddenly take it? But he didn't say anything. Thinking of the secret of Saburo's life experience, Chen Shi was a little uncomfortable, and Sanya just spoke out to relieve her embarrassment. Mother, what are we having for dinner? Chen Shi was startled, yes, what to eat? Not only are there no pots and pans at home, there is not even a stove. It's all her fault that she's so impatient. Anyway, she has to eat dinner to talk about it. Gu Yunjiao laughed again, looks like I have to go to the county town tomorrow and buy some pots and pans. Mrs. Chen said, I'll go to the upper room and tell me, I'll borrow their kitchen messenger today. Gu Yunjiao shook her head, Mother, forget it, to save the noise and decorate the rice, I'll take it to sister-in-law Osmantha's house to make it. Chen Shi said hesitantly, is this possible? Gu Yunjiao nodded, Osmantha's sister-in-law is good, it's all right. She went in and took a bag to put some rice in, and said to Sanya and Liaolang, in a while you guess it's almost time, so go to sister-in-law's house to serve meals. Mia and Rokuro nodded vigorously. Guyunjiao carried the rice and left. When she was about to arrive at sister-in-law Osmantha's house, Guyunjiao turned her head sharply, and saw a bare-headed child following her not far or near. Guyunjiao thought to herself, this is the second time she has seen this child follow her, and she doesn't know what this child wants to do. She knocked on the door of Osmantha's house, and went in. Osman thus to breathe a sigh of relief. You didn't come at noon. I was in a panic, and only when I asked did I know that something happened to your Saburo, and you went into the city. Osman thus pulled Guyunjiao into the kitchen and pointed to the stove. Well, the braised pork that you made according to the method you taught me is still there. Guyunjiao smiled. It's hard work, sister-in-law. Today, I have to borrow your cooker as a messenger. While she was swiftly washing rice and cooking, she talked about the separation of the family. Osman thus was happy for her when she heard it. That's good, your mother-in-law is good, you don't have to be sneaky if you want to eat meat in the future. She said and went to the backyard. I went to the vegetable garden to order some vegetables and fry them. Osman thus grabbed a handful of green vegetables for a while, and then brought over all the eggs laid by the 3 chickens in the past few days. When the meal was almost over, Guyunjiao started cooking. Guyunjiao first fry a green vegetable, then took a few eggs and fry a large bowl. Just after scrambled eggs, Rokuro and Sanya came over. Guyunjiao divided some of the eggs and braised pork among the mother and daughter of Osman thus, and put the rest in a bowl and covered it for Liaolang to carry. Sanya carried the green vegetables. Guyunjiao got a clay pot and packed the rice, and took it to the house. Going all the way, Rokuro was so excited that he couldn't stop looking down at the bowl in his hand. You know, this is a bowl full of meat. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 60. As soon as the 3 of them entered the yard with their meals, they met Kilang from the 3rd room. Kilang is 8 years old this year, the age when Pai was dying. When he saw Liaolang holding 2 bowls, he stretched out his hand. What good food to eat. Rokuro hurriedly dodged, but it was too late, and Shishiro had already opened the bowl halfway. Shiro shouted, a lot of meat. Rokuro quickly ran into the house. Kilang followed and ran into the house. Guyunjiao strode over and stopped him. Sanya was also clever, and came to stop her. Kilang was so anxious that he bypassed the 2 of them and ran to the east wing. Just running to the door, Rokuro slammed the door shut, and Cairo knocked on the door. I want to eat meat, you open the door. Lu Lang replied inside, if you want to eat meat, go to your own house to eat it. We have split up, not one family anymore. Kilang kicked the door fiercely a few times, scolded a few words and ran away. Only then did Guyunjiao let Ruku open the door. The dining table was placed in Zhang Yu's room. Chen Shi looked at the braised pork on the table and was stunned. Hey, where did this meat come from? Osman thus can still afford meat now. It is well known that Osman thus is poor. Her family has only 2 acres of land. The man died again. After paying the tax, there is nothing left. Guyunjiao smiled, mother just eat, I gave you money. Chen Shi became more and more worried, did you take your own private money? You spend so much money, in the future. Guyunjiao waved her hand, mother, stop talking, I think the body is the most important thing. I'm still young, I want to grow my body, and I won't grow taller if I don't eat meat. Lu Lang said from the side, mother, I am also young, and I have to eat meat to grow taller. Sanya also said, mother. Chen Shi had a headache, stop, eat, you eat, I won't say anything, let's do it. Everyone brought a bowl of rice to eat. Lu Lang put a piece of braised pork in his mouth, chewed 2 bites, closed his eyes and sighed, my God, it's so delicious, if only I could eat meat every day. Sanya also took a bite carefully, her eyes narrowed instantly, like a hungry cat. Chen Shi didn't eat it, but instead took a piece and fed it to Zhang Yuzi. Gu Yunjiao ate it in a hurry. She had to say that Osman thus was really good at cooking, so she described the method of braised pork to her in a mess, and she actually made it. Rokuro ate 2 pieces of meat in a row, so he didn't feel embarrassed to stretch out his chopsticks again. The meat was not much. However, he can also eat scrambled eggs. Scrambled eggs are also a good dish that is rarely eaten once. After eating a few bites, Rokuro said with a smile, "It's good to split up the family. Not only do you have meat to eat, but you don't have to grab food with Erlang Shilang, Wulang Kilang." He wrapped a mouthful of scrambled eggs and said vaguely, "By the way, it's great that you don't have to listen to Grandma's scolding." Sanya nodded and shook her head, "It's my sister-in-law, and I have meat to eat with my sister-in-law." Gu Yunjiao smiled and said, "As long as you two are obedient, we will eat meat every day." Chen's brows that were frowning because of Zhang Yuzi were loosened at the moment. She suddenly felt that perhaps breaking up the family was the best decision she had ever made in her life. Even though the family has suffered a big loss this time, the family is happy, which is rarer than any amount of money. Zhang Yuzi was lying on the bed, chewing the meat in his mouth slowly, with a smile in his eyes. He also thinks it's good to split up. Such a happy family is like a family.